Picture this. You've invited some friends over for a fried chicken feast in about an hour. You pull up a recipe that requires only 30 minutes of cooking time. That seems easy enough, right? But you start to cook, read the first step, only to realize that the chicken needs to brine for at least 4 hours before you even fry it. This has happened to me countless times and could have been avoided if only I read the full recipe first. Think of a recipe like a map. It will give you all the information you need to get where you want to go, but one wrong turn and you can end up with unintended results. That's why it's important to go step by step and take your time when reading a recipe. So let's start with the basics. Actually reading a recipe. Believe it or not, reading a recipe from start to finish is a really big deal. Recipes often have hidden instructions, added time you may not have accounted for, and often unintentionally misleading instructions that can throw you off if you're reading and cooking a recipe for the first time at the same time. Getting comfortable with the skill level, techniques, ingredients, and tools is essential to producing a fantastic result. So if you take anything away from this lesson, remember to always read the recipe first. So, you've read the recipe, now what? Read it again. On this pass, we're looking for a few different things. First, we want to get an idea of the skill level required for making this dish. If you're a novice cook or someone with limited access to kitchen tools, make sure you've looked into which tools are required. For example, this easy one-pot teriyaki chicken recipe looks simple and delicious, but if you read the first direction, you can see that it requires a pressure cooker or instant pot. If you don't have this equipment, it's a good idea to either find a version that uses the tools that you do have, or if you're set on this recipe in particular, pick up the tools well before you plan to cook the dish. The same goes for ingredients. We'll be covering both of these topics later, but for now, just keep an eye out for anything unfamiliar. Especially in international cooking, some ingredients can be hard to find, so give yourself time to look up any ingredients that look unfamiliar and find out where you can purchase them and what you can use as a substitute if you can't find it. Finally, we're looking for timing. Timing is essential. Never underestimate it. Even the simplest dish could require hours of prep time or just passive waiting time, like our fried chicken recipe from before. Recipes will often call this out at the top of the recipe. Some will even differentiate between your prep time, passive waiting time, and cooking time, so that you can gauge how much time you're actually going to need to be cooking. Also, keep an eye out for suggested cooling times, defrosting, softening, which we're going to cover a little bit later, and anything that might require you to wait or prepare an ingredient well in advance. These things matter. Always assume any recipe that you're cooking for the first time will take an extra 15 to 30 minutes to make, so you can plan ahead before you invite people over for a fried chicken feast.